So my name is Hanna Kaminsky. I've been cooking and baking since I've gone vegan about 17 years ago, and making cookbooks since I was 18. I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, but I now have 6 cookbooks, and my latest one is Sweet Vegan Treats. So that is not just desserts, but also breakfasts and snacks, other things for everyone with a sweet tooth. And I'm going to be sharing a recipe from that, which is the self-frosting peanut butter cupcakes. But before I do that, I just want to ask, who here likes baking? Who here wants to bake but doesn't really know where to get started? Who here is terrible at baking? Okay, well, this is for all of you. So super simple. And what I love about this recipe, self-frosting peanut butter cupcakes, you're going to say, what does that mean? That sounds kind of funny, self-frosting. Well, it means that they go into the oven fully decorated with the frosting embedded in them, and they come out totally done, ready to go. Beautiful, every single time. You don't need a piping bag. You don't need a fussy presentation, preparation. Everyone can make them. If you can make muffin batter, if you can stir with a whisk, you can do this. Kids will love it. Get them into the kitchen. So I'm also going to share with you some of my baking basics. I know that a lot of people get caught up on where to start, and there are a few basic techniques that I take for granted. I feel like everyone knows how to measure flour, and everyone knows, you know, the way to mix it all together. But then I have friends that come back to me and say, your recipe didn't work. I did everything right. And I ask them a few simple questions like, oh, no, I didn't do that. No, that was wrong. Okay, so I need to break it down a little bit more, and I feel bad that I don't always. In every recipe, it's like, I want to be there to hold your hand, but I'm here today, so we're going to fix this. So we're also going to be talking about a lot of substitutions and alterations, because everyone thinks baking, it's so precise, the ratios are so important, and it is. There's not much you can do once you mix it and it goes into the oven. But there's a lot of play once you understand the way that certain ingredients work, why they're included, and how they work together. You can start making your own recipes or riffing off of them, and that's how I got my start. Because I am not trained, I do not have a degree in culinary, pastry, anything. I just went to the kitchen because when I went vegan, I was, baby vegan in Connecticut, nowhere, nothing doing. There were no desserts. There was nothing I could do to satisfy my sweet tooth unless I made it myself. I had never cooked or baked before, so the first couple tries, I was making bricks. I mean, God bless my parents for surviving that and eating everything I fed them, but it's gotten so much better from there. So I'm just saying, you don't need any crazy training. You just need to try things. And don't be afraid of food, because the worst that happens is it's terrible. You throw it away, start again. No one dies. So for the self-frosting peanut butter cupcakes, I'm actually going to start with the frosting, because when making a chemically leavened batter, which almost all of vegan baking is, unless it's yeast, chemical being referring to baking soda, baking powder, you want to mix that at the last minute before it goes into the oven because it starts to rise. Double-acting baking powder, you've maybe seen that on the containers, not sure what that means. It means that it has 2 leavening stages. One, right when it hits liquid, so as soon as you start mixing it, it begins to rise. And the other, when it hits heat. So as soon as it goes into the oven, it gets its second rise. So that's why we're going to wait on that. The frosting itself does not have any leavening. So I'm going to use this bowl.
Are we actually going to bake something?
We are not. I'm going to show you how it comes together, and then you'll get to eat fully baked, delicious samples that are ready for you. Because that would take much too long of me just sitting and chatting and saying nothing.
You already have samples?
They're ready.
Okay.
No worries. I got you covered. Yeah. I know that's what's really important here. They're ready. Even if I'm late, even if I totally mess this up, you'll never know. You'll never know if I make this horribly, because the cupcakes, they're fabulous. They're done. I mean, we'll see, but.
As far as calories go?
It don't count. It's vegan. It's healthy. Doesn't matter.
But if somebody's trying to lose weight, like me.
Well, for the samples, I'm happy to say these are minis. And it takes about 4 minis to make one full cupcake. So you're eating just a quarter of a cupcake, which is nothing. And really, cupcakes, they're kind of like muffins, so it's a good breakfast. You're here for brunch, right? So in this frosting, I have a few pre-measured things, but we're going to talk about it. The first thing that is not pre-measured is actually going to be the peanut butter, because this is a peanut butter frosting. If we used vegan butter or coconut oil, like you would in a traditional buttercream frosting, it would melt in the oven. So this one's a little bit different. My trick for measuring peanut butter is to first grease the measuring cup, because otherwise it's super sticky, you never get it all out. And if anyone has questions at any time, please shout out, get my attention. I don't know what I'm doing here, so. I'm very much unaware. It's just like, we're baking things. Please, yell.
So that's real peanut butter?
Real peanut butter. If you're allergic, you could use any nut butter, almond butter, seed butter. Also, a really fun seasonal twist, I've done it with speculoos spread, which is like a ground cinnamon cookie. Really delicious.
Very high in calories.
But good. Good calories.
But it's very high in calories.
You need calories to live.
I think I'm in the wrong class.
Oh, and there is the oil. So I try to get no stir natural peanut butter, but there's usually still a little bit of oil right on top. And I'm just going to fling it everywhere, so don't mind me. Right, so the only thing to, oh, now it's oily. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to grease like all the doorknobs when I go out. So the things to keep in mind, if you're using sunflower seed butter, it's a little bit strange. I wish someone warned me in advance. It's great because it's much less allergenic. You can bring it to your kids' classrooms. It's not like peanut butter. But sometimes it will react with baking soda, and it will turn your baked goods green. It's very strange. It doesn't happen every time. I don't know why it does or doesn't. Different brands, different varieties. It tastes fine. It's perfectly safe. It's just green.
What's the quantity of that?
This is half a cup going into the frosting.
Half a cup?
The recipe is all in, oh, I'm making a mess. Sweet Vegan Treats, my cookbook. So this is a teaser. You're going to have to go check out the book. I'm selling them out on the floor all day.
Is there a booth for them?
Yes, I'm out there.
Okay.
Well, I will be out there.
Okay.
You'll see me. I'm right by the bathroom, if that helps.
That's a good location.
I know. For me, too. So we've got our peanut butter going in here. Nice and easy. And then we have powdered sugar and cocoa powder. And I would love to just dump it all right in there, because that'd be nice and convenient, but I'm not. Because you might be able to see, it's pretty clumpy. This happens with cocoa powder, powdered sugar, all of the time. And I'm so guilty of not sifting, because sifting is such a pain. Oh my God, another step, another thing to clean. But it really makes a difference. I've learned my lesson. I've made so many lumpy frostings, it really bums me out. So we are just
Coconut powder, and what's the other?
cocoa and powdered sugar.
Okay. Chocolate?
Yes. And so this is just a strainer. You can also use like a fancy sifter. You squeeze the handle, it goes much faster. I'm a little bit low tech. And this is easy. I mean, I love a multitasker like this. You can use it for straining your fruit purees and all the other things, nut milks if you wanted. And it doesn't take that long.
You need a sous assistant, a sous chef assistant.
Nah, this is easy. What else am I doing here? I gotta do some work. So you see, we got all that lump out of there. That would be really unpleasant.
Oh, yeah.
Like pebbles. But also still usable, don't waste it, just press it through. And it will be nice and smooth. So I am going to start stirring into the peanut butter. It will be very, very thick. But if I don't do that, it will be harder to incorporate later. So just struggle with it. And I'm also showing this totally low tech, no electricity, to prove you don't need a stand mixer, any fancy equipment. I do this all the time. And I'm strange. I've got a stand mixer. It's right on the counter. I try not to use it ever. I don't want to clean it. I don't want to have to hassle with it. So going into that, I have oat milk. You can use any non-dairy milk. In all of my recipes, unless it's a very specific thing like ice cream, I always just say non-dairy milk. They all work fine. It will slightly change the texture. A richer one, it will be moister, a richer batter.
What is
but
that in your hand?
this is oat milk.
Oat milk, yeah, that's good.
Right.
That's good stuff.
So your preference, wherever you have on hand, and sometimes you can even get away with just using water. I don't really advocate it, but in a pinch.
It's hard to find that in the stores.
Water?
No, I meant the oat milk.
No, I see oat milk in every store now. You can get it in Target.
No, you don't find it. You don't find it in Safeway.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes. I bought this at Safeway.
Okay.
Planet Oat. That's at Safeway, and Silk has one that makes an oat milk. Oatly, of course, is the brand. Everyone knows Oatly, at least for coffee.
You know what I noticed though, that hydrolyze their oats.
Yes. And you can make your own oat milk too. It's the simplest thing. About 1 cup of oats to 4 cups of water, blend until very smooth, strain. It will separate because there's nothing added to it, but just shake it up and it's good.
Much better flavor.
Oh yeah. So we are going to struggle with this because it's going to be messy for a little bit. And stir until it's smooth. Cocoa powder was 1/4 cup. Powdered sugar was 2/3 of a cup. And again, it's all in Sweet Vegan Treats. I'm really going to make you want to buy this book. Sorry. It's my job today. I mean, if you ask really nicely, I might post this on my blog later. I have a food blog that's been going on for over 13 years, which is like a dinosaur in blog years. I have hundreds of free recipes posted there, sweet, savory, healthy, indulgent, holidays, seasonal, everything you want. I try to do 2 to 3 times a week. That's at bittersweetblog.com. I also have business cards out front if you can't write that down or remember. Yes, it's the cocoa powder, high quality cocoa powder. It makes a difference. Very important to discuss, ingredients make a difference. When I say cocoa powder, you can get crappy Hershey's or you can get Valrhona. Makes a difference. You can't start with bad ingredients and end up with a great dessert. It'll be fine, but
What do you recommend for the cocoa powder?
this was a Rodell. I love Rodell. It's a little bit harder to find locally. I buy it online. They make the most amazing vanilla, but they also do some spices and cocoa. King Arthur, like I said, Valrhona, Berry Calibo. There's tons of really good cocoa out there. Okay, so that is looking pretty smooth, almost.
And your cookbooks are beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, I do all the photography for all my cookbooks, all that. I do photography for other cookbooks and other authors as well. So we've got frosting. Very easy. And you could just eat that and be done. But we're going to keep going. And so the nice thing is that if you were in a hurry and you realized, oh, I can't bake right now, this will keep in the fridge for 2-3 weeks easily. And it's also nice if you have leftovers, you can just have it on hand, use it to frost toast, you know. This is peanut butter. It's chocolate peanut butter. And on that note, if you want it less sweet, adjust the sugar to taste. You could easily do half of that amount or even no sugar if you did an already sweetened peanut butter. So very flexible, very easy. Now for the batter, I'm going to start with the wet ingredients. And that will be another 1/2 cup of peanut butter. What's interesting here is that obviously there's no egg, but there are a number of things that could be what people consider egg replacers. God. This table will just be covered in peanut butter. I really hope no one's allergic. I'm so sorry. When I wrote this recipe, I wasn't thinking about replacing eggs because I never baked before going vegan. I never saw eggs as a staple ingredient as so many people do. But this has peanut butter going into it, which you could use in place of eggs. It does have a strong flavor. It will have flax seeds going into it, which blended with water, it forms sort of a gel. It's one of my favorite egg replacers if you need such a thing because it's fairly neutral. It works in both sweet and savory dishes. And it also has applesauce. And I love that because applesauce can not only work as a binder, but also not a fat substitute, but a way to make it lower fat. Because we have all this peanut butter going into it, there's no added oil in this recipe. So we try. It's all about balance. It makes a really nice moist batter just with the peanut butter.
Look at the other.
You're welcome. I don't think this one.
You got to do them separately. That's it.
There you go.
Oh, no, you guys. Trust me, I'm causing more commotion than you.
No, it's good. I need a distraction. No one will see the mess I'm making. So, like I said, we got the applesauce going in. Got another half a cup.
Yeah, applesauce and peanut butter is a killer, man.
Pretty good.
So this is not a knucklehead recipe.
Oh, sure it is. How is it not? I've just mixed things in bowls.
No, I mean I'm trying to, I'm a knucklehead, right? So I'm trying to remember all the ingredients.
Well, you don't need to when you have the cookbook.
I know. And
So
the
many
photographs,
pictures.
too. Yeah.
So many pictures. I mean, who doesn't take pictures of their food today, right?
No, I mean I'm more into like the video. I cook pretty good when I watch a video.
I just need to be there in the kitchen with you then, huh?
Yeah.
I don't do video. Well, I guess I do, so I just lied. Drag me in kicking and screaming.
No, because the advantage of the video is people can stop.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot good there.
Not that you can't do it.
So, going into that is going to be the sugar. And I have them together because I was lazy. I have both granulated sugar and brown sugar, and equal parts of both. If you are out of brown sugar, really easy to substitute. You just need to blend 1 cup of granulated sugar with 1 teaspoon of molasses, and you have brown sugar. But I also wanted to break it down and show you a lot of people don't measure brown sugar properly, and it drives me crazy. This is what throws off so many recipes. So, brown sugar, I have a clean bowl here, and I brought with me my handy dandy kitchen scale. I love my scale. I really wish that more people would bake with scales because they think, oh my God, this is so fussy and intimidating. It's so much easier. You have so many fewer things to clean, not the measuring cups, not the spoons, not the, all those things. And it is so much more accurate. So I'm going to prove to you.
I recently just bought one of those.
It makes a huge difference. You need to use it. You need my book. We'll talk. We'll talk.
How to use it?
Yes. It's so easy. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm going to show you a cup of brown sugar. When people do it the wrong way, they're just going to say, that's good. Nice and even, smooth it on top. Measure it like you would sugar. Dump it in. That is 1.75 ounces. That's not the way to measure sugar. For like granulated sugar, sure. But for brown sugar, you actually want to pack it in rather firmly so that you can almost make like little sandcastles with it. It should hold its shape. So you'll end up with much more brown sugar. And that is 2.5 ounces. That's a huge difference. So that's why you either need to know the right technique and or weigh it. So Just wanted to show you that. And kitchen scales, you can get it for $10 or less on Amazon.com. And sorry, I'm a big fan of Amazon. It's like, where can I get this? Amazon. Where can I get that? Amazon. It's just so convenient. They have everything.
That's where I got this.
And they often have sales and coupons.
It's just so convenient.
Yeah. Not like I'm saying order through my referral link, although you could. But
Do you live in the Bay Area?
I do. I'm in Oakland. Okay. Like it never happened.
Do you sell your products to any bakeries?
I do not sell finished baked goods, but cookbooks, and I do freelance recipe development and photography.
And what?
Photography. I'm on the creative end. I love feeding people, but not directly. I give you the tools. It's up to you what to do with it.
What do you like to do with photography?
Food photography.
Oh, food stuff.
Oh yes, all the foods. So, to the liquid ingredients, we now have more oat milk going in. It's going to be 2/3 of a cup.
Product photography. Makes a huge difference.
Put photos or it didn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
Into that, we also have the flaxseed. So in the recipe, it's written 2 tablespoons of whole flaxseed ground. I know this is kind of annoying, because then you have to get out another piece of equipment and clean that and dirty that, all that. If you don't have a spice grinder, don't want to deal with it, you can buy it pre-ground. Just bear in mind that 1 tablespoon of whole flaxseed is about 1.5 tablespoons ground. And when you buy that, you want to store that in the freezer because it will go rancid easily, the fat content in it. So just bear in mind. And
Good to know.
I'm sort of breaking my own rules. In the cookbook, I have you blend the flaxseed separately with water, then add to the liquid. It's all going in the same bowl. And I also say you should use water with that. It's all liquids. When you know what you're doing, that will come out perfectly fine. If anything, a little bit richer, because oat milk versus water, that works perfect. And I just want to give that a little stir, because that might clump up a bit. It forms a gel, and that's the whole point. Yes? It can both ways, depending on how long you keep it, but it goes rancid much more quickly when it's ground because there's more exposed to the air. And then I am going to add to that vinegar. This is just a cute little travel pack. Actually supposed to be a shot that you drink, but I can't get into the drinking vinegar. Sorry. I mean, maybe if you add sugar, but that's just me. Not that I have a sweet tooth or anything.
Was that a teaspoon?
Yes, a teaspoon.
I'm sorry, what ingredient was that?
That was apple cider vinegar. And if you're out, you could also use white vinegar, rice vinegar, any sort of neutral vinegar. I've dabbled with all sorts. And if you're out of vinegar, you could also use lemon juice, lime juice, any citrus. I mean, again, the variation's endless. Very easy. Oh, and I should say also the brown sugar, if we're talking about substitutions, you could use coconut sugar instead. It's a little bit lower glycemic index if you're looking to reduce the impact on blood sugar. It's still sugar.
Date sugar?
Yes, you could. And also bear in mind that we'll measure it a little bit differently. You don't pack it in. That's more like a granulated sweetener. So because we got the peanut butter in this, I'm going to need to whisk it to get smooth. So we're going to switch over to the whisk.
You need to whisk it. Why?
Because look at all these clumpy lumps.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Never going to smooth out with this. You could also do this all in your blender if you want. It's a lot easier and faster.
Assuming you have a blender.
Yes, if you have a blender, that helps. But we're doing this old school, no electricity. You can do this in a blackout, except for the baking. Small catch. Unless you got a solar oven, that'd be pretty fancy. I don't know anything about those. And honestly, I shouldn't say anything about the blackouts. Who's dealing with blackouts?
Who what?
Who's dealing with any of the blackouts? Oh, fun ahead. Sorry, kids. I'm terrified. I'm just glad I'm going home, and I know the lights will be on.
I think we should all get posters and go petition PPE.
I don't know what we should do, but something.
Stand there with a sign, all knuckleheads, please leave, or something like that.
Yeah, I thought we'd been doing that. They're not getting the hint.
They want us to pay more, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
it's a good racket.
it's time to break them up.
Yeah.
So we are now progressing on to the dry ingredients. This is the foundation. Most essential ingredients, all-purpose flour, white flour. I get unbleached. This is where a lot of variation is possible. I know a lot of folks are gluten-free. You can use an all-purpose gluten-free flour blend. There are a number of them on the market. I don't recommend most of them. Results vary greatly. So I say you can use any gluten-free flour blend, and any will work.
What do you recommend?
I recommend Bob's Red Mill 1-for-1. I've loved Bob's Red Mill since I found out about them when I first went vegan, and they've evolved with the times. Their blend has gotten better as well over the years. They've revamped. That's 1.5 cups.
And you can buy it on Amazon.
Amazon. All the Amazon. You can, any Whole Foods, Berkeley Bowl, any, probably like Safeway. You could also use a whole wheat pastry flour if you want to use more whole grain. You could use half and half, like whole wheat flour, all-purpose flour. There are also fun things like barley flour, sorghum flour. You could do half and half. You just need a little bit of the gluten if you're going to do that to keep it together. If you're making your own gluten-free blend, I also have a recipe for that in my book. You want a little bit of xanthan gum to just keep it together. Otherwise, it'll be too crumbly. And to that, we've got our chemical leaveners that I talked about. Baking soda, baking powder, and the salt, just on one little container.
Well, you can do it.
I try. It's like I was doing a demo today or something. Crazy. And I want to whisk that up before I add anything else, because I want to make sure that the baking powder and soda are very well incorporated. I don't want a big clump of either one, or it'll have that really chemically taste to it. And I've done that before. It's not fun. It also helps to break up any clumps you might have had in the flour and get that a little smoother. So the next step to bring the batter together will be to add the wet into the dry. But I want everything ready to go so it can go right in the oven, theoretically. And I want to have the pan prepared. So I've got my baking pan. I love this. If you're making muffins, you could just grease it, spray it, put them right in there. If you want to save on the liners, that's fine too. But my belief, personally, is that muffins have no papers. Cupcakes have papers. This is what separates them. So today, I'm actually not using papers. I wanted to show these really fun, more eco-friendly silicone liners. So they're washable, reusable endlessly, never stick, lovely. They don't need any grease. You could also just put them straight on a baking sheet if you don't have a pan, because they support themselves a little bit more. But I find they're a little bit more malleable, so you might misshape your cookies, muffins,
Well,
not
that's
cookies.
amazing. That you can just put them on a baking sheet.
It's very handy.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
I've wondered many years ago, like you said, you add the wet to the dry.
Yes.
What's the difference between that and adding dry to the wet? Or maybe there's no difference?
There is a difference. It is somewhat, it's very small. I find that it comes together better, just gravity. The weight of the liquid works better going down onto the dry ingredients, because the dry will have a lot of trouble blending in. They'll sort of float on top. It stays down, and it's easier to scrape the bottom. That's what they call the classic muffin method.
Okay, have a nice day.
Sorry, I'm so boring.
No, it's just like, I think it's rude that people do that.
It's okay.
Is that
No, the recipe is in my cookbook, Sweet Vegan Treats. And I've got that with me at my table. If you don't want to buy it, that's A-okay. I'll look away and you can take a camera phone photo.
I won't do that, but is it okay if you like, and with the rest of the people, because I came a little late, I tried to get all of your ingredients. Okay, never mind, thank you.
Someone is on it.
How much is the book?
The book is $23.99, I believe. And I will be very happy to sign it for you today, because I'm here.
Wonderful.
Added value.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So here we go. Liquid into dry. And so, by the way, your oven should be preheated to 350 at this point. I would not combine these two until it's at temperature. And also of note, do not trust your oven temperature. The digital readout, 99.9% of the time, is wrong. I don't need to see your oven. I don't care how new it is. It's wrong. You need at least one thermometer inside it. I have 3. I don't trust mine at all. It is very wrong. I have to set mine to 370 to get to 350. So I just learned I always keep an eye on it. And so now you will stir.
So you have a separate thermostat that you...
Thermometer inside. And you can buy those super cheap. They're like $6 to $8 each. They break all the time, though. You need to replace them. Amazon.com. Sorry.
So we're gonna make it 350 for how long?
350, we're getting there. And so we're not going to stir this too much. Over mixing will make for a tough batter. It's okay if there are a few lumps remaining, but you want to make sure you scrape the sides and the bottom so there are no big pockets of flour just hanging out in there, because that is unpleasant.
I'm sorry, what does over mixing do?
It makes a tough batter because it brings out the gluten in the flour. You want that if you're making bread. That's why you knead it and mix it so much. But in a cake, cookie, you want a very tender crumb, and you want to keep the gluten inactive as much as possible, just enough to bind it together. So when it's done, the batter looks like that. A little lumpy, a little bit scraggly. Perfect. And so to portion these, I like to use an ice cream scoop. I now think they're calling them cookie scoops. They're everything. They're very easy to find, very easy to get. I believe this is a medium. I think it's 3 tablespoons. And this is one I love using for cupcakes and cookies. Of course, ice cream. They make them in all sorts of different sizes. I've got hundreds. The mini ones are great for the mini muffins. Sometimes I want to double it up. Depends on how big you want to make your cupcakes or muffins. I usually go for about 2/3 of the way full, which is like that. Makes it very nice, neat. You're not spilling, pouring things everywhere. So I will portion those all out. And I think this one might actually make like a baker's dozen, more than 12. We'll see. This is a bit of batter here. Do we have any questions along the way?
Yeah, what happened to the cocoa and peanut butter?
We're getting there. That's the frosting.
Okay. Oh, that's the frosting. Okay.
Did you use baking soda?
Yes. There is baking soda and powder in here. And I found a little clump of flour, so I'm just going to beat that out. Nothing to see there.
Can I ask how much baking soda?
It was 1 teaspoon baking powder, half a teaspoon of soda, and half a teaspoon of salt. Yes. Details. And when I call for salt in my book, I am just talking about table salt, not kosher salt, which is a much larger grain. And it actually, people say, oh, it's such big crystals, it must be so salty. It's actually less salt by measure, because the grains take up more space and they don't fit in together as nicely. If you put salt directly on top of something, it tastes saltier, even if it's the same amount as mixed in, because it hits your taste buds first. So if you wanted to make a salted peanut butter chocolate cupcake, save the salt or do like half the salt and sprinkle a little bit on top. It's really nice too. salty sweets. I'm all about the balance. It's delicious. Okay, so we have too much batter. We're going to ignore that.
Okay, now.
Now is the frosting.
Yeah.
Now is the good stuff.
Yeah.
This is what makes them self-frosting. It makes them special from every other cupcake. Now, you're going to take a spoonful to taste, as much as you would like, and add a dollop into the center of each cupcake.
I could smell the peanut butter.
Oh yeah, it's powerful. Plenty of peanut butter going on in here.
Okay, I got you.
It might be a little bit hard to swirl in. It's a bit thick. We'll do our best here. If you wanted, you could also do this like a marble cake and just swirl the frosting all throughout the batter. But I feel like it makes a really nice finish when it's right on top as the frosting. You could do this in loaves as well, or bars, a whole sheet cake. Same procedure, same concept.
Disappointed that you're not putting more on.
Well, you will get your own cupcakes with plenty of frosting. And there is also extra.
So will that, I guess it'll spread once it's baked, huh?
I'm getting there. One thing at a time. Don't rush me.
Okay.
Before baking, that's why they're self-frosting. They come out of the oven totally done.
Doesn't it smush? I mean, or melt?
No, because as I said, I'm not using butter or coconut oil. It's peanut butter. It won't melt. Okay. So, to make them self-frosting, we are going to start to swirl it in. And go ahead and make a mess.
I get it now.
You basically want to just start pulling it from the center and around the edges. It's a bit thick and it can be a little finicky. It may not be perfect or beautiful, but they will all come out delicious.
Maybe you could use a knife instead of a spoon?
It's all about the same. I mean, you can. It's just what I've got right here. I'm not going for, the most beautiful swirl in the world here. As long as it's more or less mixed in. And I like to keep it a little bit on top, like I said, to concentrate the chocolate flavor. And for the design, let's see if I can get that knife in here. Yeah. Does anyone want to help me swirl this in? Can I get a volunteer? Excellent. Show them how it's done. Okay. I'm just about done. And so if you want to make this as a larger sheet cake or, not sheet cake, but around a square, you could do this in an 8x8 or an 8-inch round pan. And you would bake that for about 25 to 30 minutes. As cupcakes, it's about 18 to 22. Mini cupcakes, it would be more like 12 to 15.
Are you actually going to bake that?
We're going to pretend.
Huh?
We're going to pretend. You will have the cupcakes. I don't have an oven.
No, I know that, but for the next group of people or something, you're not going to, no? It's just for, so what are you going to do with that when you?
Do you want raw cupcake? You want batter? I mean, it's good batter. See, the lovely thing about baking vegan is there's no eggs. You could eat it.
I'll take a couple of those cupcakes. I'll just throw them in the oven when I get home.
And that is about it. You will see how they come out looking self-frosted, and that's all you need to do. Any questions?
No.
Oh, sorry, one question. I do not calculate. Like I said, doesn't count.
Hanna, where are your cookbooks for sale?
My cookbooks for sale today are out on the floor. Otherwise, they're on my blog and Amazon.
How long did you say it would take if you made a cake, like a square cake?
A square cake would be about 25 to 30 minutes.
I certainly do, but I'll take one of these and one of these.
They're the same.
Oh, they are?
We're having only limited.
They are all the same.
Everybody else got this. We only have, that's all we have.
Well, here,
Oh, that's okay. You can have two.
Okay? Thank you.
Good, yeah.
Ah, perfect.
Perfect. Sorry, I hope I didn't rush you, but I was.
No, that was good. It's like, I don't know how long I should stretch. And
Can I help you with this stuff?
yeah, just cleaning. Just got some.
Delicious.
Thank you. Mission accomplished.
Do you want me to take the stuff into the kitchen, or where do you
Uh,
want to do your thing?